The 10X Country Initiative is one of the most exciting things to look towards over the next 20 years. The paradigm of how to improve something not just incrementally, but redesign everything from scratch from a first principles perspective, with the intelligence metric being how much energy, how much time is it taking to produce X amount of sustainable well-being for all people involved. This is ultimately the only way to measure intelligence, and it's the only way to measure the relative successes of different countries. So if country A, for example, using the American template, an American will generate 102 metric tons of garbage in their lifetime. An American will consume 90,000 gallons of gas, not only in their own transportation, but in the production of commodities consumed and often disposed. An American will waste 50% of their food. An American has a 70% likelihood of being overweight. An American has a high likelihood of being in prison, particularly a male, at some point in their life. There are a number of baseline statistics for countries that are considered to be doing quite well. If we're to listen to some rhetoric, America is number one. And so a 10x improvement means generating 10 times more well-being per unit of energy invested relative to the comparison, or developing and producing the same amount of human well-being with 10 times less energy. Now, the path to a 10x country is an exciting one. It's about the journey, not just about getting there. The path towards a 10x country begins with a scientific cross-sampling of individuals who are able to replicate and create 10x lives. That's why I call this the greatest game a species can play. It continues on a community level as groups of 100 or so people at a time produce a 10x lifestyle, a lifestyle that provides 10 times more well-being with less energy consumed. Once you've got the recipe and understanding that the human brain it's designed to hold intimate information of at most 150 people. After that, when you divide people into groups larger than 150 people, intimacy dramatically deteriorates. And so the optimum, and we also see an interesting thing, which is that distrust goes down and satisfaction goes down. The more removed we are from what's going on, the more removed we are from government, the more unhappy we are with government, which means that in general, a locally elected government of people you're seeing every day doing things that relate to your life is always going to be voted higher than a national government you don't know them, they don't know you, they don't see your pain, and it doesn't seem like anything that they're doing has something to do with your life. Whether it does or not, government satisfaction goes down. Now, if we understand this module and we create, let's say, 10 different models, 10 different successful achievements in different ways, maybe with different mixes of emphasis so that certain personality types or certain people at certain points in their lives would be enjoying this type of 150 people, this type of 150 people. Once we have the recipe and we start creating synergy recipes of how this group of 100 people would relate in a mutually beneficial way with another group of 100 people. Now we start being able to create a town. And once we've got that, creating a synergistic network of towns across a region of landscape is the last and most easy step. The 10x individual, the 10x community, forming modules of community, that is the hardest. Once you've got a town that's functioning 10 times more effectively on the most intelligent metric that there is, which is sustainable well-being per unit of energy invested. At that point, only an idiot, and I guess there is a fair amount of that, but only an idiot wants to continue to have 10 times less well-being than a proven scientific method. The first town that pulls off 10x lifestyle for every one of its citizens is national and international news. And that's the point, to make the recipe available to everyone. Now, once you've got a state or a region or a county that has pulled off a 10x lifestyle relative to everyone else, and the only thing holding them back are national regulations that are outdated and not attuned to the people, this is the point when a conversation can go on. And for a scientific mind, it becomes very difficult to defend a status quo that is 10 times more energy consumptive in an ecological fragile context. You know, we have a crisis on our hands, which is that we cannot continue to consume and disperse energy as inefficiently as we're doing, where some of the people consuming the most garbage, the most energy, the most gasoline, etc., are also, paradoxically, the most unhappy in global statistics. We cannot perpetuate this lifestyle. Now, my vision for the 10x country is that the first 10x country, no big political battle, when we realize that all we need is 1 million acres, a few 100,000 acres, to fully express this model of living. And when the recipe is proven, there are many foolish leaders and many foolish governments and many foolish people, but amongst the 200 nations around the world, I submit that handing a possibility that you, by taking an area of currently unused land, or by repurposing an area of existing, an existing land with people that have voted for it, that we can create a 10x country. A country that, much like Disney World in Orlando, Florida, has an enormous amount of autonomy. Disney World negotiated, and this is in the capitalistic paradigm, but within the capitalistic paradigm, the Disney Corporation went to Florida and they said, we're going to spend $500 million. We're going to create jobs. We're going to create a tourist attraction. Are you interested? And Florida said yes. And Disney said, well, here's the deal. We get to build our own nuclear power plant if we want to. We get to police our own area. We get to do the planning and regulations and projects on our schedule. We get to train people and bring people in from around the world in our way. We get to do whatever we want. And Disney World is the result of the state of Florida saying yes. Go ahead, you can police your own land. Go ahead, you can have your own park service. Go ahead, you can have tax rebates and subsidies and Go ahead, you can build your own nuclear power plant. Go ahead, you can design it however way. We just want the money. We just want the tourist dollars. And the partnership was sealed. Now, in different times and different periods, different currencies come into their own. Right now, Bitcoin is having a little surge. But ecological currency, reputational currency, well-being currency, publicity, positive social media, tourism, these are the soft powers of our age. And if you can go to a country, maybe even a dictator, with a shady reputation, and say, how would you like to have the best country on earth nestled within your current borders? All you have to do is take this complete swath of undeveloped land that you don't have the time, the money, the initiative to do anything about. And it can be parkland because our design for the 10X country is going to generate more CO2, more trees, more green energy. It's going to be a net positive country on the environment, meaning the environment will be less likely to have a wildfire. We'll have more biodiversity. We'll have more trees. We'll have more fire put out capacity with underground reservoirs. It will have more biodiversity, more safety for the animals, less poaching. It will have more of what we want than if we didn't exist. It will contribute not only to the biodiversity, to the ecology of your region, but by documenting every step of the way, by broadcasting 24/7, here's what we're doing and why, the entire planet will have proven scientific, interesting, and ecological methods for living at a higher quality of life than you're living today. Now, there may be a lot of idiots. There may be a lot of egos out there. But there's going to be one ego, one person in service in all those 200 countries. It says, why not? We've got nothing to lose. And if the rest of the country, having partitioned, and said this is now functioning, because it doesn't matter if there's a new passport. What matters is that there is a legal, ethical framework to live at scale in a 10X lifestyle. When the project is a success, you see, and when you're aiming for 10X, if you get it 20 times better, hooray. If your country is only 500% better than any other country on the planet at delivering well-being to every single one of its citizens per unit of energy invested, that is still a success. But 10X is easy when you've got that kind of latitude. 10X is easy when you're designing from scratch. And the debate, you see, we are hungry for a 10X lifestyle that works. And the debate in politics, in policy, in people's private homes, watching YouTube videos about the only 10X country on earth, the debate is going to be, why don't we give that a try? And it concede a 20% impact, not just a 10X country, but it can ripple out so that the entire world, through personal and governmental initiatives, through nonprofit initiatives, steadily learns and adopts what is by definition the most intelligent endeavor that any species, that any country, that any group of people, that any individual can engage in. Anyone who thinks that a way to sustainably increase well-being by 1,000% relative to the units of energy consumed and spent to do it has an idea I haven't heard of. So join me by becoming a 10X individual. Join me by helping to form the first 10X community, knowing that what we need most as a species is a 10X country. It can be the template for the first interplanetary civilization, for the first group of 100 people to go to the moon or Mars, to start living in a capsule in outer space. There is so much we can learn from this endeavor. It is such a fun journey to anticipate. It is so energizing to be a part of not a 2% compromise, but a 10X vision. And you know, there is room for doing it more than one way. You can build a 10X town completely different than anything on this website. And if you succeed, you will have done an enormous service to our species. We can partner in a challenging collaboration to continually extract and bring out the best in human beings, the best of what's possible. And when I see you doing something better than what I'm able to do in my 10X community, I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to challenge you to do the same, because we're all in this together. The more we learn from each other, the more human beings leave the reptilian state of survival, the sociopathic state of trauma and PTSD, entering the human domain of feeling like they belong, feeling that they love and are loved. The more human beings that move through that third level in Maslow's hierarchy of needs and move into self-esteem. Right after that comes generous contribution, making a difference. And shortly on their heels come individuals that reach towards transcendence of borders, of artificial boundaries, that start relating not as isolated and cancerous units in relationship to the environment, but as an integrated whole, participating in synergies that are only possible when the entire species is engaged in the dance. And there is not a more interesting game that we can play than that.